Welcome to Firefighting Day, the weekly video roundtable discussion show. We discuss all things fire service related. Firefighting Today is a production of PeteLamb.com. And now your host, Chief Peter Lamb.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Firefighting Today, the weekly roundtable show. I appreciate everybody being with us. So we need to do tonight, we're talking about recruit training. Is recruit training effective? And the answer might actually yes, but we'll let the panel make those decisions. As we each week, if you're watching us live on YouTube, feel free to join the live chat over there. Join in the chat room. We'll bring our comments and questions right into the panel if you'd like. If you happen to, you're not doing that and you're watching us off the site, if you have Twitter, we will be monitoring Twitter if you use the hashtag @PeteLamb. So let's get right to it. Let's introduce the panel. Chief Whitley.
Hi guys, Warren Whitley, retired from Prince William County, Virginia, now living in North Carolina. And Pete, you sound like Max Headroom.
I see. Let me see what we can do about that. Chief Fling.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me again, Pete. Rob Fling. I'm a past chief with the Dix Hills Fire Department located in Suffolk County, Long Island.
Always a pleasure, Rob. Thank you. Chief Woolery.
Yeah, hey, good evening, Pete. How are you? Lane Woolery, Battalion Chief with City of San Diego Fire Rescue.
And the world famous guest on the Firefighting podcast this week. let us not forget that. Next, a new time, first timer in the round table. Say hello, brief introduction, please.
Yeah, Chris Tobin, thanks for letting me be here. Just St. Louis City Rescue Squad 2. That's about it.
All right. Appreciate it. And not to be left out, Chuck, say hello.
Hello, Chief Pete. Appreciate you having me on again. Chuck Bassett, City of Southfield, Michigan, firefighter paramedic for 15 years.
Excellent. All right, let me do something here. I have to put up with just the. Hopefully it changes my audio perspective a little bit. Maybe it makes it better. Maybe it doesn't. I'm not sure. But the question for the panel tonight is your recruit training effective? So I guess what I'd like to do is just run the panel and see how many weeks of recruit training, how is it done? Is it internal to your department? Is it done at a county or state academy? What does it look? Chief Whitley, why don't we start with you? So what is recruiting in your world as you know it?
Well, back in Prince William, we had two recruit schools, really. One for the career staff, which was about 26 weeks, which covered firefighter 1 and 2, EVOC, EMT, a couple of the tech rescue curriculum. Then on the volunteer side, it wasn't really run as a recruit school per se, because it was 1 or 2 nights a week and a day on a weekend. But it was mostly just all the academics and practicals without the PT and all the other team building stuff we did with the career recruits.
Okay, that makes. And did you say how many weeks, Warren?
26 weeks.
Okay, 26 weeks.
And they had a full-time staff there, staff of about 21 people. And I think, if I remember right, 5 or 6 were dedicated to recruit school.
Okay, makes sense. Rob, what goes on in your world? Is it county done or is it state done? How does that work?
It's county done out by us, Pete. Basically, they'll cover the Firefighter 1 curriculum. It's basically a hybrid class mostly right now, where you do take a bunch of online classes. You get in front of an instructor for a few times. And then they do a hands-on, they call it a boot camp. They do a hands-on reinforcing everything that you learned from Firefighter 1. My department also does its own Proby school, we call it. We have about 10 to 12 classes that we'll put everybody through. Basically, familiarization, SCBA, hose line pulls, engine ops, truck ops, and then reinforcing what they learned in Firefighter 1.
Okay, makes sense. What happens in your world out in San Diego?
Our basic fire academy is 16 weeks, broken up into two phases. The phase one's the didactic and a little more of the basically instructional part, and then phase two is a little more of the evaluation piece. But and then they finish that academy. They're certified firefighter ones, and they're also have their wildland firefighter certificate.
Right. That's also a whole to the puzzle that some of us don't have to deal with is that whole wild piece. Chris, what goes on in St. Louis? Obviously, you're a large organization. You run your own. And how does that work? What's the length and so forth?
Yeah, so we do a 16-week recruit academy. They come in not having anything. They get Fire 1 and 2 and all the state certs that they need. We also provide an 8-week for guys that already have experience. And after their 8 weeks are up, they get sent to the track and essentially finish out the academy on a company that they may or may not stay at. Then they come back for graduation. The other group stays for the full 16. For 10 weeks, they do the Fire 1 and 2. And then at week 10, they switch over and just do departmental SOGs and get good at pretty much St. Louis strategy and tactics from then on. Okay, good.
So you kind of do a little customization I'm hearing there. So that's a good thing. And Chuck, what goes on in South?
Here we have the Fire 1 and 2 basic academy to the state. That's 295 hours, I believe, which is meets the NFPA requirements of the 1001. From there, when we do hire people, we have a 1-year probationary period where they're given a book, and it has a lot of different things that they need to fulfill and require to make sure that they're full-time here.
Okay. Well, so we've got some ideas that there is. I guess the question is, and anybody on the panel, if you'd like to just give me a call on. Is it enough? Is what we're currently doing adequately preparing our troop? I guess is the purpose of tonight. And if it isn't, I'd like to comment. What do we do to make that better? Anybody want to dive on that? Yeah, Lane, go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you right now, what the kids get today is vastly superior to what I got. Our academy was roughly the same length of time, and we actually had EMT school as part of that as well. When I came on, all you needed was a pulse and a high school diploma or a GED. And, nowadays we require them to be paramedics or EMTs before they even come in the door. So that piece of the training is already taken care of. So all 16 weeks is devoted to actual, mostly firefighting stuff. There's obviously some other, peripheral things as well. But they get a lot more hands-on stuff, a lot more reps. They're really better prepared. And then, after the academy, they go into the what we call post-academy training, where we have stations where they go. And they get a chance to work both on an engine and a truck with a training captain. So it's night and day. The kids are way better prepared than what, I hit the streets with back in, many years ago.
Okay, that makes some sense. I'm curious, is anybody else doing what Chris said? What about internalizing? What about making them yours? What about making them the Prince William guys or the St. Louis guys? What about that culture? How do we set that up? Is that the senior man officer? How does that work? Go ahead.
Hey, Pete. Well, in Prince William, once you get to the station, they'd assign you generally the technician 2, which is the next level up. And they have a rookie book they go through their first year in the station after recruit school. So they get mentored for that first year. And sometime during that first year, they'll go back to the academy for driver operator and some other stuff. But a lot of the inculcation of the department is there from that senior man and their crew.
And does that work, that effective?
It seems to be, because once they get through that book and anything they get tested on, they adopted third-party testing. So their crew's not going to run them through the test in their book. They either go back out to the academy or the academy will send somebody to them to do that evaluation. So there's that objectivity.
Makes sense. Rob, your comment.
Yeah, we basically let the county take care of the big picture, I guess you could call it. and internally, we'll train them. We do have our own training facility, so we'll do that. We'll do some live burns with them. We'll further teach what, like I said before, we'll further take them through some of our own training, and then we school them in our procedures because we operate rather uniquely as every engine's a squad. So we have to go through a heavy rescue. We go through our procedures of when we operate as an engine, when we operate as a truck, and that's
excellent. You did the magic words, which I'm going to take us on up here in a minute. Warren probably has one or two things to say about this. So, anybody else want to dive in with the call thing? I'd like to hear a little from you, Chris, on that, if you don't mind. Like, how do you make them use? Well, how does that work?
Yeah, so we don't really have a set curriculum. We let the captains really have full reign of authority over who they get. So as long as they really nail their SOGs on the first alarm assignments, that's pretty much what they all have to know, what to do when they arrive. So we pretty much just go out on any day, any time, find a vacant building, train them there, go out to a vacant lot, hit a plug, get them good to go, pull lines, raise ladders, and that's pretty much a daily basis for their first entire year. And then from there, we can kind of assess if they're gonna, hang around or not. So because they are on probation.
Yeah. So is that a four-man company plus them, or are they the fourth person? In other words, are they the fifth or the fourth?
So they're the fourth, and they're always assigned to the plug man position. So their entire existence in life is to get us water on a fire, essentially. So.
Okay. Chuck, yeah, go ahead, Lane. Dive in, please.
Well, what Chris just touched on there is, we always talk about, would it be nice to give them a 20-week or a 24-week or, a longer academy and teach them more? Absolutely. But, at some point, you got to pay for all this stuff. And the budget for an academy is really expensive. Anytime you're paying, you got to pay the instructors, and you're paying probationary firefighters that aren't actually out on engines. So the more time you can get them out on the engine and training, then you're actually you're getting some work out of them. They're providing some service to the citizens in addition to getting their training, and they're not just idle capital, if you will, at the academy.
Yeah, I think I get that, and I obviously, as some of you might know, I mean, I was the director of the State Fire Academy in Massachusetts, so I got the whole cost factor there. I will tell you, as a chief, later on in life here, my attitude has changed. I'm investing in that young guy or young gal on that's a 20-year mistake I'm about to make. That's a big investment. So is that investment worthwhile? And I get it. Cost is an issue. There's no question that dollars and cents and overtime and all of that stuff is an issue, but is a 20-year investment. And I think that in some cases, and we had this. I mean, I saw it at the stable. I've seen it in several facets of my career. We rush them exactly as you said. I got to get those people on truck. That's what I do. So I've seen that happen. Do you face that at all, Chuck, in Southfield?
Well, what I was going to say is pretty much every different department has a culture, and when you're bringing in the probationary firefighters, they kind of got to learn that culture. As far as the firefighting 1 and 2, I think they do a fairly well job. If you look at some of the certified curriculum on the state website, it seems like it's pointing to a lot of the less frequency type of things that we do, as far as like the Gordon Graham's kind of ideals. So some of that, when you get a new guy coming in here, you got to do some of that basic training with them, just making sure they know exactly how your department will work.
Makes sense. So Christina's in the chat room. I don't know if we can.
So some of that, when you get a new guy coming in, you got to do some of that basic training with them, just making sure that they know exactly how your department will work.
Makes sense. So Christina's in the chat room. All right, we have a technical problem. Somebody's got YouTube and somebody's watching the stream there. So if we can take that down. All right, wait a minute. I'll try to fix it. Let's see if it does it. We'll try to get back to it. I'm not sure how that happened. Unlike we were rebroadcasting for a minute. Christine's comment was that in New Jersey, she's got a county-run academy, and then you've got to indoctrinate them to your local department, tax and so on and so forth. But we did say something that was interesting. We said the word culture. Culture is my favorite word in fire service, right? Because cult is the first part, and then the next two is you are. So we understand where we are, and each organization is very, very different in what it tolerates and what it does. So I want to go back to at some point during the discussion. But also, what about this whole live burn thing? The current 3 live burns, I think Chief Whitley probably has one or two things to say of this, but is the live burn doing what we want it to do? And I see Chris is ready to go here. Chris, jump in.
No, absolutely not. It's actually probably the most unsafest, most detrimental thing we've done in this century of firefighting. It's really set us up to fail on all accounts.
Yeah, and so a little further, just for the viewers, I think I know some of your opinions on this, but tell me why from a perspective.
So, I mean, I've had to be the 1403 instructor before. I've done the whole pallets and straw, and then I mean, it's just we all know better, and I don't think you should train for a modern fire environment in a legacy fire training facility, essentially. Not to mention the gas-fed fire facilities. That's on a whole nother spectrum of wrong. It's just, it doesn't set you up. Who else trains like that? Name one other entity anywhere that trains is less realistic as we do. So I don't know of any.
Yeah, no, I take one of the more famous military axiom is fight like you train and train like you fight, and I'm not sure. I won't even go off on gas buildings because that just doesn't work for me at all. But that's done, and it's done for cost, it's done for ease, it's done for environmental reasons. There's a lot of reasons why that happens. I would like to hear from Chief Whitley your thoughts on this.
Well, exactly what Chris said. We're setting up for failure because we're teaching legacy fuels, which have, modern fuels have 15 times more heat release rate than the legacy fuels. We have buildings with no lining, so there's no place for the fire to spread like it normally would with the flow path. So there's no other fuels it's impinging upon. In the old, I don't know if people still do this, but there's places that would actually take the students into the burn room before they put water on the fire. So there's all sorts of things, and even don't put the fire all the way out because it's a pain in the butt to relight. So we're doing everything wrong in 1403. I can't think of one right thing that we're doing other than safety. Safety people keeping an eye on things. That's a good thing.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that I think not only is the technique, not only is the fuel loads, et cetera, but when you mention technique, for our own convenience, put the fire all the way out. And what do you think the student is going to do when he gets into the room, or what? You know what I mean? We teach bad behavior in addition to some of the technical fuss. I got Chief Pernesti in the chat room, and he's saying he was just actually starting the discussion about 1403 burns, but now he said, here's an example. Would a police academy teach cadets to handle what's from yesterday? Pallets and straw up academies worried liability is hurting, and he says he is an academy instructor as well. Don's with us. Don Thibault says, "Do you get live burns?" And I think, no, you don't get rid of live burns. I think the process that we live with. I think somebody's got to look at NFPA 1403 and figure out if there's a way we can say do it with high heat release fuels. I think you can do it that way. So no, I don't think anybody wants to eliminate the burns. I think we've got to modify the way we do it and still maintain some degree of safety. Is anybody on the panel got an opinion on that? We don't want to eliminate them. I think we want to enhance them. Blake, go ahead.
Well, yeah, in Southern California with the air quality management issues, it's really, really challenging for us to burn. We even acquired a Draeger prop, and that was actually good at teaching the smoke flammability and some of the fire behavior stuff. You actually use OSB. It does create kind of that fuel laden smoke. But then we got to the point where we can't even use OSB anymore because of health concerns. Now we're using regular wood, and it's still run everybody through it, but it really is suboptimal. But for the life of me, given the constraints we have, I just don't see any solution.
Yeah, certainly is not an easy solution. I did just chuckle to myself when you said, the environmental concern in California because you're burning like a pallet of OSB. You have had fires that have been 110 acres, right? I just probably puts up a little smoke. I just saying, I might be sure, but just saying that there's probably an environmental concern that as well. When you said the Draeger prop, are we referring to a flashover simulator, trainer, whatever the right word is? It's two-level
flashover trainer where the smoke layer goes above and they see that. It's it doesn't really teach firefighting, but it does, I suppose it's better than a dollhouse, but given the amount of money we spent and the overtime and all the issues with the local and the health concerns and the AQMD, it's probably would have just been better off just building a dollhouse and going with that.
Right. No, this is not an answered video, certainly, but I will tell you, if anybody that is listening who has not seen the prop called Max Firebox, when you talk about the smoke and flammability of smoke and some of those things, that is an only prop with an next presentation. So it's saying that replaces a live burn, but when you start talking about some of that fire behavior stuff, I think that may be even a little better than dollhouse in some cases. So if you have not seen that, just Google that and you can find out what's going on with that. Is there anywhere the panel sound like we're doing a good job with recruiting? Is recruiter training effective? We think so. So, is there anything we can enhance? Somebody on the panel will say something. We ought to have more training on X, Y, Z. We ought to have this. Anybody got an opinion on
that? I think we do have to gear our training towards what we face out there today, Pete. Warren could probably answer this question on how many pages of the Firefighter 1 book have to deal with fire behavior. I'm more apt to have to deal with that going to a fire than the 4-hour class on ropes and knots. I think it's about time that we do take a good look at what we do and how we do things. And like we've discussed before, the way we've always done it is just a really crappy excuse. And as far as the 1403 burns, I have a lot of problems with 1403 burns, to be honest with you. Not only from what was already said, but we teach guys to go in and put a fire out that have absolutely no heat condition. They know where the fire is every time. When we try to teach them to use the thermal imager, it's really not a good scenario for that. And there's been more than one occasion where I've had a flow of water going in the front door all the way to the fire room because the house is full of fire, and we don't do that. We routinely see guys that don't open the nozzle until they make the burn room.
Right, because that's what they were going to do. Probably, I mean, that's probably what we set them up to do. What else could we? You mentioned the things that we're doing. I'll tell you, as a chief officer in a smaller department, we just get pulled 5 different directions. We have to do on duty people have to do EMS research. We have to do all of the things that come with, and when it comes to skills. And Mike's have good. I mean, they have, they do a great job. That's not what I'm suggesting. But we are being pulled in so many different directions. EMS being one of those. Now, that being said, EMS is probably 7% of my workload. So it's not like, it's not. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying there are other things that distract us.
Yeah, you know what Rob touched on there. He was talking about making the academy correlate with what goes on out there. And I can't think of how many times when I was in the academy I remember being taught, well, you're going to learn that here, but once you get out in the field, you're going to learn how we really do things. And a few years ago, the guy who was running the academy actually sat down and very intentionally tried to cure that. So the exercises that the recruits do in the academy are much more field relevant. And the hose lays when I came on were more almost choreographed, like dance steps. And they've tried to eliminate that. So to create a more a field relevant product, so their time spent there is a lot more, translates into behavior they can actually use on the fire ground.
Makes sense. It's Chris, what would you do different? What would you add? What would you change in your A-level program?
Yeah, so the fuel load would definitely be the one thing that I would change. Our burn facility is fantastic. We have one that was built in the 80s, masonry. It does everything we need to do. What it doesn't do is give us realistic smoke conditions. It's not the heat or the fire that gets us jammed up or the inexperienced jammed up. It's the smoke, in my opinion, and the prelude to the fire that gets us in a jam more times than not. And if I can't make that smoke, then I can't give them anything that they can count on when they actually get in it for real. So that's the biggest thing, in my opinion, is just the fact that I can't set up an actual living room with furniture and let that be a real fire for someone going in. So they're going to get warm and know what they're going to do. They're going to open up the line like they should do instead of resetting a fire or, not putting it all the way out and getting all those bad habits under their belt. So that's the biggest thing I would change. But I would also, if any time possible, get an acquired structure and do training in those. It doesn't have to be live fire, but what I would do is I would get it and then I would set up simulations and then they just do all the non-fire related skills over and over again. And then if I was going to do live fire, then I would get someone else's training facility that they're not familiar with. Then I'd do all my live fire simulations like an actual, from start to finish, lights and sirens, show up, get off, do everything you're supposed to do. And that's the only way that I found to really identify training gaps is to get those simulations like in that way.
And well said. That this is great for somebody if you mutual aid county or something else. Use their burn building so that your crew is not familiar. I mean, a brainstorm. I like that. That's a very, very good piece. In the chat room, Don says, Capibo says, does anybody make people do annual research academy training similar to the police in services? If we were playing by the rules, and I'm not a huge NFPA fan by any means, but we are supposed to have annual live fire training. Actually, no, I don't think that's true. I think it's quarterly. Quarterly live fire training is what's specified in 1500. I don't know of anybody that's doing that, Cap, only because of cost constraints and all of those things. Is there anybody on the panel doing annual, semi-annual burns after they get on the job? We're stepping outside the realm of recruits here, but is that happening anywhere on the panel?
We have to do, all of our interior firefighters have to do 12 hours per quarter, Pete. And they also have to go at least once a year to our county facility to do a burn.
So tell me what 12 hours are in fire conditions or in the burn building for 12 hours?
Yeah, well, I mean, those 12 hours could be, a seminar somewhere. It could be in-house training, throwing ladders, maybe an after-action review. But generally, most of we do quite a lot of burning. We'll probably burn 2 to 3 times a month.
Yeah. You've got the facility right adjacent to you. So, I mean, that's great. I think when you talk about things that people don't want to talk about, an investment in a good refractory Macy burn building is an investment, but the environmental concerns or the runoff concerns, it just becomes an animal that you can't deal with. And it's concerns. I was going to say it's got to be pretty isolated because it's a great way to tick the neighbors too. So putting those pieces together really does make it difficult. What's the strangest thing that your department does in training? Do you do anything unique? Doesn't need fire training? Is there anything that all recruits have to do? I.e., for example, at the Mass Academy. Well, I haven't been there in a couple of years, obviously, but we still did a cathedral raise in the drill yard. That's something that was still done. Is there anything odd that you do in your training that would be unique that you could share with the boys? Lane, did you have?
No, I'm sitting here trying to think if we do anything. I've seen video of San Francisco doing that cathedral or auditorium raise, and it's a pretty impressive evolution. But unfortunately, I can't lay claim to anything that unique or interesting.
Chris, you do anything crazy in the city? For example, the city of Boston still actually trains on palm peelers. The hook and the rungs and the straight stick with pegs come. So the city of Boston still does that. Chris, anything in St. Louis?
No, nothing crazy. I mean, we do have 125-foot sticks that still, we have 125-foot aerials. We'll go up and clip into those and have them lean back without hands with a ladder belt. That's about the extent of anything crazy. I'm sure that's done all over though. So.
Right. That one's a pretty common one. I have very, very distinct thoughts on the cathedral raise, and I realized that it has nothing to do putting up a ladder. It has to do with trust, confidence, courage. This job still does take courage. You got to figure out what you got to put somebody in a position that's safe, but you got to put them outside of their comfort zone if you're going to be able to do this job effectively. And that had so much more to have confidence in the equipment and have confidence in your 4 folks holding the ropes and having a little bit of mental fortitude, as they say. Chuck, what about you? Anything unique? Anything you do strange there?
No, I don't think there's much of the uniqueness. Obviously, we adopt some different ideas for hose lays and, just the basic training as far as like confined space, things like that. RIT training, rescue your own, things like that. We would do all those.
Anybody under the appropriate conditions drop the fully PPE'd and SCBA recruits into water? There's something that we did. It was based on incidents that occurred in Boston when they were fighting fires on the pier. Somebody goes off in full PPE. So we actually did each recruit had to be tossed into the pool. Obviously, all safety precautions in place. But that again, I thought was a very, very unique. You don't see that in any cases. That fear of being overtaken like that. So,
Chief, it kind of sounds like you're talking about hazing there.
No. This was This was regimented. This was an actual program at the Mass State Police Pool. Everybody had appropriate people in the water with PFD, etc. And it was not so. It was far from that. It was actually regimented as part of the war rescue evolutions. But it certainly could appear that way. But that was not the case at all. No, that's fine. It's fine. But Lynn, what do you got?
Well, I'd kind of like to throw this out to the panel. Another thing with training you see is consistency. A lot of times if you farm people out to different stations and they have a task book, what do you have in place to keep people? I know not all captains are created equal. Some captains are just going to pencil whip it and, end up shortchanging that probie. I know some academies get stuck with people that, the old saying, if those who can't teach, so they farm out the academy training to some guy who maybe couldn't hack it in the field, that kind of stuff. Maybe have the panel weigh in on the different things they do to assure consistency, to make sure consistency of product out of the academy and out of our training division it's a huge watchword. Everybody, they're just beating that drum constantly. Cross checks, going down to selection of cadre coming in to make sure there's people that are the right fit for the job. And then, a lot of oversight over what's the scoring and the rating and the teaching to make sure that we're producing a consistent probie.
Yeah, I think consistency is important. If your SOPs are right and everything's right, you want consistency. Whitley, do you want to in on that?
Yeah, I think we're right in line with what San Diego's doing, especially with the third-party testing. So the station officer's not doing the evaluations on those recruits once they hit the station for that first year. So they actually end up with an extended probation of about 1.5 years. So they start their another year of probation once they graduate. So there's checks and balances there, and the recruit staff they don't pick just anybody to go out there. They get the cream of the crop to pass on the knowledge, and they have set standards that they're teaching to.
Here's a question, and what's your washout rate in recruiting, and what's the condition these recruits as they're referring to you as it relates to physical training? If PT, I would assume most of the career academy do physical training. What's the condition of the recruit that's walking the door, and what's your washout rate? Chuck, if somebody gets on the job and they're in training, what's the likelihood of failure, or do we make them pass?
The washout rate is fairly low. We don't make people pass, but they may have to go through the training again. As you know, the fire department's more of a family than anything, so it's not like we're looking to burn people out here. We're looking to bring them up to our standards and create that fire service that we need in the department.
Okay, makes sense. Chris, what's the physical condition of the recruit when he's in when he walks in the door on day one, and do you have what's your attrition rate?
Yeah, the attrition rate varies. I will tell you this: an academy that cuts corners is going to make firemen that can't turn them. And that's generally the consensus that's always been. We've had a high standard for a long time. We have actual certified trainers that come from within the department that plot and make sure that they're on a right physical agility regimen that's not hazing. We make physical agility a good thing. We don't just punish them and make them run for no reason. We got rid of that culture a long time ago because we saw that guys weren't appreciating being physically fit when they only thought it was a punishment. So we embraced, the CrossFit and the functional fitness culture a long time ago, and it's helped us. But when it comes to washout, we absolutely don't sugarcoat anything. And a matter of fact, we call it ringing out. And basically, they ring a bell 6 times. And on St. Louis Fire Department, anytime a bell rings 6 times, that means someone's dead. Fireman has died. That's essentially what you're dead to the class. You're gone. When you say I quit or I can't, we no longer want anything to do with you. So that's pretty much how it is. We don't give hugs. It's not something that we would ever lower standard to. So.
Nice. The peer training, and obviously I was well versed. I mean, you can never use Pete for punishment. That's just never going to work. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't do that and why you don't do that. You want them to understand what the exertion rate is and the fact that they need that kind of training. Lane, what happens if what's the condition of the recruitment physically, and what's your washout rate?
The attrition rate, I couldn't give you an exact percentage, but we'll start with, 35 in that range and graduate, 31, 30 thereabouts. sometimes a little lower. A few years ago, we actually had an increased attrition rate, and it was because of the physical abilities of the recruits. So to that end, actually, as people that are in the selection process, we created a what we call a CAMP program. And that's an acronym for some kind of physical. It's a physical fitness preparation for the fire academy for the recruits. And since we implemented that, there's a lot higher completion rate. And the people that are washing out, it's not so much because of the lack of physical abilities.
Excellent. Robbie, you've got a different world with the volunteer and the on-call sector. What does is that a factor for you in terms of the physical abilities, and what happens too, because you've got people volunteering to do stuff, and then do you lose them eventually anyway? What's your turnover in the department even beyond recruit school? I'd like to hear that from you.
Well, the people that come on, come from all walks of life. Some are physically fit, some are not so physically fit. Some of them learn a good lesson, the first few weeks. Hey, I'm not as in good a shape as I should really be to do this. We do supply gym memberships to every member of the department that would actually like to go. Our washout rate's very small. Usually we will lose people who can't cut the culture of the fire service, as opposed to who can't actually complete the work. And what was the third part of that, Pete? I'm sorry.
How long do you retain? It's beyond the scope of the recruit, but how long do you retain a volunteer when you get them?
That's very open-ended, and it's something that we fight continuously, because we will take, if they're a member of our junior program, they can come in at 17. Right after they complete the junior program, they can start Firefighter 1. But what happens at that age? People go away to college. So we can't stop them, obviously, from going away to school. We actually want them to. But we do lose a significant amount of people to school. We do lose people who find it extremely hard to live on Long Island because of the cost of living. So we lose them to that. I can't really offer you a percentage of what it is, because I honestly don't know. But we do lose quite a few, but then, we have a good percentage that end up joining maybe a little later in life as they're established. They're a homeowner in the community and they have kids or whatever, and they're here and they stick around. So I guess in the long run, it balances out. But the younger person coming in, that we can get them at 18, 19, 20, and we see them grow up in the department and finish off after 25 years of service or more, is few and far between, actually.
Yeah, I bet. And Warren, what was your attrition? Did you have any challenges with the physical fitness of the entry-level candidate?
Well, for physical, we use CPAT as part of the recruitment process. And they allow sessions where they can go to the facility and practice before the entry testing. So, and then we have peer fitness trainers in most of the stations, if not all. I don't know what their status is right now. The department has a fitness trainer who advises the recruit schools, and I believe she's also a nutritionist now. So they get, whether it's certified nutritionist or not, she does give them nutritional guidelines and advice. I would say that most of the dropouts come from the academic side more so than the physical side. And, the attrition rate in the past has run anywhere from 30 to 50%, depending on what's going on with the rest of society and who we're getting.
Right. Has anybody noticed that what you used to get when somebody advertises for a job, is the number of candidates that you're getting, number of applicants, is that the same or lower or higher? Chuck?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, when I got hired here, there was about 2,000 people in a room for 10 jobs, and that was just the morning recruitment, and then there was the afternoon also. So I think recruitment is down a lot. Some of that might have to do with how much we're getting paid here in Michigan. I think it's right around 24,000 starting wages. So that's fairly low.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of factors. It's the economy you work in. Chief Pretty, who's usually a panel member, if he's still in the chat room, if he spring into action, his community is a very different community. It depends on collective bargaining agreement, politics. There's a lot of things that affect what your level is. But I hear from a lot of chiefs that the number of applicants is severely reduced. I don't know if that's the case everywhere. Chris, what's that like in St. Louis?
Yeah, so I can tell you when I tested with 2 different days of over 1,000 each day, and the last process we had only had 1,300 total. So that's due to a few things. Our pension pretty much got taken away from us. Our pay is at least half to 2 times as low as the surrounding county, and there's a lot of other factors in there. The whole blue collar culture isn't something that's really embraced by the younger generation. But I tell you what, we're getting less applicants, but we're getting, I think, in a way better because we started giving preference points to vets. So we're starting to see some really good recruits come through, straight out of the military, multiple deployments, and that's always a good thing, I think, for any department to have that kind of culture, a paramilitary culture. So.
Yeah, that makes some sense. That makes some sense. So as we begin to start one down here, what I think, just kind of prepare a state, if you will, folks. I'll go to every person. Is my question, my premise was: is recruit training effective? I think we heard it is. How do we make better? Are we preparing them for what we need to prepare them for? And what could we leave the viewer with? How could we make recruit training better? I think one of the best words I heard tonight was consistency. I think that's a big deal. I think we should emphasize that. So, Rob, let me put you on the spot. Is recruit training effective, and how do we sweeten the pot as we summarize?
I think recruit training is effective to a point. Especially when you bring somebody in that has absolutely no firefighting training at all. You have to get them to a point. I guess it's almost like physical fitness. You train, you reach a plateau, and then you're going to have to find something else to excel above that. I like the consistency word. You'll see it a lot in some of our older guys who've been on a long time and might not be quite as active as they are, as they once were. Once they try to go do something, they realize that they don't have the skills or they're out of practice, I guess you could say. So consistency is a big thing, I think.
Thank you. Lane, what are your summary thoughts for the viewers and the folks that'll watch it later?
Intentionality and field relevance. We've really tried to get, our guys, our captains who are teaching at the academy are all serving line officers, so they have a vested interest in the product that they're putting out. And so by intentionally selecting the people to do the training that are invested in the output of the program, and then really trying to make the curriculum as field relevant as possible. I understand we all have our little benchmarks we need to hit, and in order to fit whatever Firefighter 1 curriculum or task book we have to teach them, but to make it as so that they can show up day one at the fire station and actually perform as part of a crew. And then finally, it's as much money as you can invest and time you can invest in these recruits. The old saying goes, if you think education's expensive, try the cost of ignorance.
Yeah, particularly in our profession, and I think it's a challenge, certainly. Chief Whitley, what would you summarize tonight? What would you leave us with?
Well, consistency is a good thing. I think all of us agree that we need to improve fire behavior training with realistic fuel loads. Chris, if you get a chance to come play with Kill the Flashover, we use real buildings with real fire loads. The other thing is to examine your recruit school and see what fluff there is that you can do without and concentrate on the firefighting things. We spend 4 days on car seats, which I think is a waste of time, but things like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, look, inventory your recruit training. A great one, Chief Whitley, is see what's a must know, what's a nice to know. Like with ton hours as a premium, that's a good one. That's a great one. Chuck, what do you think? What do you leave the viewers with tonight?
Yeah, I believe that talking about 1403, that definitely needs some work. Things you've heard before, which is the biggest freelancing in the fire department. Overall is in the classroom, so having that consistency would help that. And then with your new recruits, just making sure that you're listening to what they have to say, recognizing their strengths. It's important for the fire instructors to kind of set the tone for the department when it comes to the new recruits. But the instructor's job is to kind of create that more or less a safe space for the younger recruits to come in and express themselves and their different ideas, see where they're going to be fitting into the department, and in that way they'll definitely listen to what you have to say for them.
Okay, and cleanup hitter, with the exception of me, I always get this word, Chris. It's the rules, man. It's just the way it happens. But Chris, what do you want to leave the viewers with about what we talked about tonight, or any summary statements to make it better or different?
Yeah, I think the one thing we all agreed on was basically that we need better fire conditions in our fire academies. But a lot of things that we do, we don't fight fire all the time, right? We're in a firehouse the majority of the time. And that's something that is overlooked and missed in the fire academy. So that's something that is important to hit on. The firehouse culture aspect of things, making sure that they know how to make coffee, raise the flag, understand the importance of those things. Always be the first one to work, that kind of stuff. Don't overlook that. Don't overlook the cultural side of things in the fire academy.
No, I agree, and I think some of what's happened was in general, and I think this is blanket. You look at the panel. We literally are all across the country tonight. We're well represented geographically. Nothing makes me crazy. You go into a firehouse kitchen today, and no one's talking to one another. Everybody's staring at their cell phone, and that was not the way. Certainly, I was ever brought up or whatever. I mean, you were doing something. I mean, you think of the old joke that the Sims used to tell about. You sit around and play cards all day. Well, when you play cards, you were talking to the person sitting across from you. I don't know if that's any better or any worse. I don't mean to say it that way, but the fact is that our electronics, I think, have effects, and I think the way good point by Chris to say, hey, listen, we got to teach you when appropriate and when it, if it's after hours, it's after dinner. Go do what you want to do and read Facebook if that's what you're into. But I think that has affected our newest members, as I would say, not necessarily the recruits, but younger members have more of a reliance on that. And when you talk about that in-station behavior, I think that's hurting us a little bit. I don't get rid of it. I mean, I'm a Twitter guy. We're on the internet right now, so I'm a proponent of it. But I think it does have an effect on the. I was talking to Chuck earlier. I actually have a program called Fire Station Sociology. Because it is a different culture. There's things that happen in a fire station that wouldn't happen out on Main Street. So I think we need to run that and build that culture. As they're trained and recruit, I think we could help build that culture. An inch at a time every day, a little less there and a little less in there and there. Well, thank you, gentlemen on the panel. I appreciate you being here. Can't do this without you, obviously, and thank you to the viewers that were with us and that will watch this later on. We will be back here next Sunday at 8 p.m. in time. Chief Flynn, do you want to put these out to the topic that you put? We're going to put that out as this week's top topic. Do you throw that out there?
I'm sorry, Pete, you're breaking up. Could you repeat that?
You had offered up a topic for around to? You want to give a tease this week?
Oh, I think we need to have a discussion on line selection when we roll up on a fire. I see continuously guys pull 1 3/4 on clearly 2.5-inch fires. I think we underutilize the deck gun, where we can make a quick hit on something with tank water. Especially if we're a little low on staffing. I think that's a worthy discussion because we could do a lot better of a job if we put the fire out quicker.
All right, so that's what we're talking about next week at 8 p.m. Eastern. So thank you for being with us this time.